Hey guys, so I just wanted to hop on here today and discuss a little bit about the 1800's restoration project and kind of show you a little bit of the manuscript, give you a little background, and kind of explain what the project is in a more detailed fashion that you don't have to sit and just read a screen. So if you're new here or if you don't know who I am, hi. My name is, I go by Cecilia Hunt. And I am currently restoring and archiving a 130-year-old manuscript of a esoteric mystery novel written by one of my ancestors. Now, this novel, the manuscript, so we have the manuscript and its carbon copy, as well as two different certificates of copyright from the Library of Congress that are both dated for 1893. So the reason that there's two certificates for copyright is because he ended up changing the name of the book. So he first copyrighted it as one name in September of 1893, and then in December of 1893 he went back and changed the name. So the author of this manuscript, his name was Charles Lane Mosier, and if you're not familiar with the Lane Mosier family in the state of Oregon, the Lane/Mosier family kind of pioneered a lot of things within the state of Oregon, within its early formations. So General Joseph Lane was one of the first governors of the territory of Oregon before it was a state. And Charles Lane Mosier is General Joseph Lane's grandson. Charles Lane Mosier's father was Lafayette Mosier, and Lafayette Mosier was actually not only an American politician, but he was also one of the bigger judges within the Supreme Court of the state of Oregon. So Charles Lane Mosier himself, okay, he was an American journalist. So he was a pioneer of frontier journalism within the West, but he traveled around the country, surprisingly. I guess not surprisingly, but you get it. So he worked for multiple newspapers, and they range from different states, okay? But his reach was national. So he had some of his pieces that he wrote in newspapers were spread throughout the country in other newspapers, which is pretty phenomenal for, you know, the time period. But he really helped actually pioneer the journalism within the state of Oregon itself. And all of this is Googleable, I promise. But this manuscript that my family has kept and preserved for 130 years now is something that is so beyond miraculous, I can't even. So this big guy right here, okay, this big guy, this is not just the manuscript, okay? This part right here is the manuscript itself, and the darker pages are the carbon copy, okay? So I want to explain to you guys why it is so miraculous that not only we have the manuscript itself, but we have its carbon copy still intact and still readable. Oh, and we also have the certificates that are dated for 1893. So in the late 1800s, there was a thing called the Great Book Scare. And if you don't know what the Great Book Scare is, that is when it is a time period when everybody thought that big diseases like tuberculosis or things like that, like polio, could be transferred through dust on paper or through paper itself. So there was a big thing that, you know, it was a great book scare. So there was libraries that were burning books, there was authors and writers that were burning manuscripts if they were sick, or there was like a huge thing where, you know, paper was feared, essentially, and they didn't know what spread these diseases, so they blamed books and the dust on the books to spread the illnesses. And it wasn't until 1920, I believe, when scientists discovered that tuberculosis and polio and things like that were not spread or shared through such means. Now, Charles Lane Mosier died in 1904, so he died far before they ever understood how his illness actually spread, because he did die from tuberculosis at a young age. But through the means of newspaper archives, we have discovered that he was still writing, he was still fighting to do what he loved and what he was passionate about, up until he just no longer could. So one small thing that I do want to note is that, like I said, he was a journalist, right? But journalism in a newspaper format was much different during the Great Book Scare than, you know, handwritten manuscripts or handheld manuscripts or even books. And the reason for this is because even back then, newspaper presses, the presses themselves created enough heat and stuff like that to really kind of sanitize newspapers as they were being printed. So one of the reasons why this manuscript is so miraculous is because not only did it survive the Great Book Scare, he didn't burn it, he didn't get rid of it, he didn't destroy it like most people did or would have. He preserved it. He put it somewhere, and one of his sisters acquired it when he passed, or his mother acquired it when he passed, and from there it just kept getting passed on to other family members down the line, and now it's here. Another thing that's really phenomenal about this is the paper itself. So the paper itself is very high quality, very durable grade paper from the late 18th century. And we know this because the paper on the manuscript itself, not the carbon copy, but the manuscript itself has watermarks in the paper from the Chicago printing press, or the Chicago paper mill. Paper mill is the right word. And at the time, that was a very popular paper mill. There weren't very many options for paper mills throughout the country in the late 1800s, and the Chicago paper mill actually made very durable paper that was low cost. So a lot of people utilized it, and hell, it withstood 130 years, and it's still beautiful, it's still perfect, it's still intact, so go Chicago. So the purpose and the point of this whole restoration project is to not only bring this beautiful manuscript and his story to life and have it available for people to actually read it, but it's also to add to the Lane Mosier family history of accomplishments and things that he did. Because at this point, we know he wasn't just a journalist, he was a novelist, and he had this passion behind the scenes that he could never share. So one of the things that I am doing while I am restoring and archiving his manuscript is I have a current petition running through change.org, and within this petition, okay, you can read all about the purpose, all that jazz, but the petition's main point and focus is, one, it has two parts. So one is to petition for Oregon libraries in the state of Oregon to shelf the published manuscript so that it is available within the free public library system in the state of Oregon. The other part of the petition is petitioning for Oregon historical societies to recognize this manuscript and this chunk of Charles's life within the Lane Mosier family archives. So if you don't know anything about change.org, it is 100% free to sign a petition. So if any of you are into history, or if you live in the state of Oregon and you really want to support and help with this, I highly encourage you and deeply request that you sign the petition. But another thing that we also have going is on my Patreon account, we also have the 1800's Restoration Project as its own tier. And so what the Restoration Project tier is you get to follow along with me intimately in the restoration and archival process of this manuscript. And what that entails is not only never before seen and exclusive scanned copies page by page of this manuscript as I do chapter by chapter, but you also get, the commentary, the notes, all that jazz, as well as within the published version of this manuscript, there is going to be an About the Author section where I will be producing a little biography of Charles. And this biography is going to be accumulated through the means of archival records, newspaper articles in archives, historical resources, and family archives. All of this can be intimately followed along within the Patreon tier, and as a Patreon member of the tier for the 1800's Restoration Project, you are supporting the Restoration Project in a way that is very valuable to not only myself, but also to Charles and my family. Because the funds from the Patreon tier for the Restoration Project do go towards things like travel for historical societies and libraries in the state of Oregon, because we don't live in Oregon, as well as publishing costs and all that jazz. So if you like 19th century literature, if you like cinematic writing or Victorian style writing, if you like esoteric mystery novels that span from New York all the way to New Mexico, I recommend it. He really combines both the golden age of New York as well as the frontier of, the West, all while making it esoteric and a mystery novel that really just makes you sit and what? Which, if you're a fan of mystery novels, you know that that's a good thing. So if you're interested, all of the links will be down below in the bio for you to check out through the Western Star Press, which is my personal press name that I do all my publishing through, because I am an independent author as well. And my press name, the Western Star Press, is actually named after honoring him, because his press name that he had for his newspapers was Western Star. So, thank you for listening to me ramble on about this 130-year-old manuscript, these old pages. And if you're interested, go ahead and check out the link below. Make sure to hit like and subscribe so that you can stay updated on the progress, as well as get any notifications for videos or anything else regarding the Restoration Project. Thanks, guys.